welcome to WKMTA,
Westgate Kids Mission Training Agency.
where our mission is to know God and make Him known.
We do this by using the Bible, which is the book that points to God.
I'm Agent B.
I'm Agent A.
We'll see you guys later in the episode.
Congratulations! You have been accepted into the Mission Training Agency. Our agents are trained to know God and make Him known through prayer, worship, community, and by knowing their Bible. The Bible is the book that points to God. Through it, we see His plan for all of creation, from beginning to end, and you are part of this plan. Before today's training starts, I encourage you to have a Bible on hand. Your training agents will be with you shortly. Welcome to Mission Training Agency.
Hello there. It is time for target practice. Missed. I missed again. There, I'm going to aim really good. I'm going to get this. 3, 2, 1. Didn't quite get it. Okay. I'm going to get it this time. 3, 2.
You just... Can you believe what I have gone through?
What?
Ever since you told Crazy Kangaroo that I was missing, he has been determined to get me, but since I've been aware of it, he has not been able to get me, but he has been doing his best to drive me crazy. I mean, you do not want to know where he hid all of these ping pong balls.
What?
You don't want to hear the story about the hat, and you definitely don't want to hear the story.
What if I want to hear the story about?
No, I am not ready to go there.
Okay,
but so mad. It's driving me nuts.
We can't seem to shake this Crazy Kangaroo. He seems to
No.
always be right on our tail.
He has earned the name Crazy for sure.
I guess so.
I know we're told to kind of like forgive and all these things, but he's clearly not going to ever feel bad about these things. So why should I forgive him? Because he's just gonna
I still think you should forgive him. I think, does the other person need to feel bad for us to forgive them?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh man,
That is a good question.
that is a very good question.
Yes. Oh, what?
Where did that come from?
It's a paper airplane. Let's see what's.
Oh,
There's
wait,
a
wait,
note
wait.
in it.
There's a note. Oh,
Is
see?
it-
Yep, it's from Chief. I knew it.
Note from Chief. Okay, it says this. Hello, agents. I hope my plane reaches you. It has reached us.
It has.
I have recently been reminded that not everything goes the way you expect. This made me wonder about how God responds when we make mistakes or don't fulfill our purpose. While I was thinking about that, I realized that God responds not just to our flaws but also when we do good. Your mission is to find an example in the Bible of how God responds to us when we do good or bad. I have heard about your recent encounters with Crazy Kangaroo and encourage you to not let him distract you. Equip yourselves not with weapons for warfare, but with faith, knowledge, and love, all of which you can find in the Bible, which is the book that points to God. Keep up the good work. Signed, Chief.
Did he actually write something?
No, he didn't write signed. It was a slash.
Oh,
Chief.
slash.
A little slash, or like a little line, whatever you call
Dash.
those things. Why am I still speaking in my Chief voice?
You do a good Chief voice, better than I could.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
So Chief has instructed us to find how God responds to us in the good and bad. And I feel like this is a really good mission because how I'm wanting to respond to Crazy Kangaroo is probably more on the bad side than good. So
Yeah.
I think this is a good place for us for me at least, to work through a struggle that I have.
Okay. So where should we go first?
I think we should do the Bible first.
Should we do the Bible today first?
Yes, let's do the Bible first.
Let's do the Bible. Let's go find the Bibles. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Get my Bible.
I got the big Bible.
You got the big Bible?
I beat you. Yes, I got the big Bible.
You're lucky.
It was time to pull out the big Bible. Big problems, big answers.
Okay, big Bible.
Okay, so there's people. We know that there's people in the Bible, some good characters.
Mm-hmm.
So what
But
are
they're real people, right?
They're real people. And there's some important ones that we talk about all the time that did both something that was good and something that was bad.
I know one.
What?
Oh, it's all the way in the New Testament.
New Testament, okay.
Actually, in Acts, it's a guy named Paul.
Ooh.
Actually, his name was Saul.
Saul and Paul. That's true.
What he did was before he knew Jesus, he actually went around and went and put Christians in jail and even went out to go kill different Christians.
That's not good.
And those were definitely not good choices.
Mm-mm.
But after he knew Jesus, he got literally on his way to his city, and God knocked him off his horse and made him blind, and then Saul came to know Jesus, and then his name was changed to Paul, and actually after that he became one of the most important people in the history of the entire world, writing letters and starting churches and telling people about Jesus.
That's awesome. I mean, that is a great example of someone who did a lot of bad and did a lot of good. So I'm just trying to think, like, how could the people even trust Paul after being Saul and what that, like, I don't know. I would have a hard time believing him just because I'd be scared of him hurting.
It must have taken a lot to forgive him for what he did.
It would have been. It would have taken a lot.
Is there anyone else in the Bible that has similar to Saul/Paul's story?
Let's see. Well, there is King Saul.
Or King Saul from the Old Testament is another man. All the thousands of years before even Saul or Paul was even alive, and he was the first king of Israel. Oh, tell us about him.
Well, okay, so Saul was chosen by God to become the first king. And, there was the promises that if you are faithful and all these things, your kingdom will always last. But Saul kind of, towards the end, really kind of stepped away from God and was more interested in, like, he was afraid on all these things. And so he started out really good in serving God and was the chosen one, but actually became, like, very jealous of David, who we know stories of David, and tried to kill David and didn't always do the things that God instructed Saul to do as king. And so he kind of stepped back.
Weren't there a couple times where God told Saul to do something very specific, and Saul outright just said, no, it didn't do it?
Yep.
Wow. That's someone who started off good and then went bad. And
there's some really cool pictures in here.
that reminds me of another king who messed up one time.
Which king?
Actually, the king right after King Saul, you talked about it, King David.
Oh, yeah, King David. King David did amazing things. I mean, there's a story of David and Goliath. There's a story of, he was a champion at war.
He's a warrior. And
he was a warrior.
It reminds me of, the Bible describes him as a man after God's own heart. But the Bible talks about one really bad mistake that he made.
King David.
And it almost lost him his entire kingship.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
That is a big deal. And what he did was terrible. What he did was wrong. But after he did it, he begged God for forgiveness. He realized what he had done, and he begged God for forgiveness.
We know that when we come back to God when we are sincerely needing to apologize and make right what we have done wrong, he forgives us. But see, that's the difference between King David and Crazy Kangaroo. Crazy Kangaroo is never going to come up and ask for forgiveness.
But this reminds me of another story. It's not about a specific real person, but it's about a story that Jesus told us.
A story that Jesus told us. Which one? I mean, he told us many.
I know. I think what I'm reminded about is the story of the prodigal son.
Oh, we're getting a call.
Good morning, agents. It's time for your skills testing again. But before I start, has anyone seen my long-range messenger plane that I've been working on? It's gone, which brings me to that. I have a bunch of planes for you guys to try out. They're awesome. They're in that silver suitcase, so if you guys go and get them, there's a target in the gadget lab that I want you to try and make it. But the twist is you only get to try every design one time to see if you can get it in there. All right? Don't try to have too much fun. Bye.
Ooh. Oh, we
Skills
gotta
test.
find this
This is gonna be so fun.
silver suitcase. We have to find a target. Something with paper airplanes.
Okay, hold on. Let's get the Bible.
Okay,
out
get the
of
Bible
way.
back. I'm gonna find the silver suitcase. Where's the silver suitcase? Guide me to the silver suitcase. It's definitely not right there. Okay,
Target. I bet you she said it was
Is it
in
right
the
here?
gadget lab.
silver suitcase.
Oh.
Is that target? Oh, that's super cool. But where's the silver suitcase? Where's the silver suitcase?
Can't
Where's
do the
it?
skills
Oh,
test.
it's right here. I got silver suitcase. Okay. Let's see what's in the silver suitcase. Are you ready?
What? Look at this awesome
Da-da-da.
target.
Let's start opening. Got it.
Oh,
Okay.
There's a lot of
We
different
have
designs here.
paper
That's cool.
airplanes, paper airplanes, paper airplanes, paper airplanes, paper airplanes, and paper airplane crane. Okay.
Oh, no. I hope that did not count as the one toss that we get for each of the designs.
No, I was just taking it out of the bucket. Okay.
All right, hold on. I want to throw these three. You get those three?
I got those three. Perfect. Okay.
Awesome.
Are you ready?
Okay, so we have a target,
Mm-hmm.
and we have these prototyped planes. All right, I'm gonna try to. This
Should we
one
go
looks
from like back here?
like there?
Okay. You wanna go first?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm gonna choose this really different looking one because sometimes the way something looks is deceiving and can be really super cool,
Okay.
even though it does not look very aerodynamic.
Okay. You go.
Can we try? Oh!
Didn't go through.
Close.
But didn't fly very well.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna try this one. It looks kind of cool.
Ooh, what's it got? Oh!
Not quite. Not quite.
close.
Okay. Which one do you want to do next?
I have a bird, and
it a
I have a plane.
It's definitely not Superman, but it's a bird.
Well, I know a plane can fly. I know birds can fly, but let's see if this bird can fly.
Okay.
Yeah!
I went through. Okay.
I
you're
made it
one.
through.
You're 1 for 2. This one looks like a dart. Okay, you ready?
It does.
Not quite. I think I just threw it really low. I think that was my fault. Okay.
Okay.
Your last plane.
I will actually be sad if the bird made it to the target, but the plane didn't.
Okay.
Yes!
Okay, my last one.
2 out of my 3. Oh!
That one flew really cool, but didn't go in the target.
Go in the target.
You know what? Here's
Cool.
my conclusion.
What's that?
I'm just not good at throwing planes.
That or, I mean, I think you're good. It just didn't make it this time around.
No,
mean,
I
there's-
know. Hey,
there's room
we'll
for
get it
error.
next time.
That was pretty cool, though. That was a fun skills test.
That was super fun.
But Agent B, how does this tie in? Like, it makes me think about how with forgiveness, we make mistakes. We don't hit the mark. We miss, and we kind of sometimes do it over and over again until we either learn or we realize that what we're doing, we shouldn't be doing.
You know, kind of like, you miss the mark. Sometimes you can try so hard, and sometimes you're just missing something, and you don't quite hit the mark. And
It makes me think about how I, as the person who's throwing the plane, where the plane goes is up to me, not the target. And I feel like with like forgiveness and the way we respond, it's up to the individual, not exactly the circumstances. And so how, like, in the Bible, we are to forgive not just based on circumstances, but we are to forgive because that's what we're instructed to do. And God himself shows that example for us because he responds to us. I mean, look at where we talked about Saul and Paul, like Saul becoming Paul, he changed and he asked for forgiveness, and it changed his life and changed others' lives. But sometimes there's people who don't, like Crazy Kangaroo, who's not going to ask for forgiveness. But if I hold on to my frustration, my anger, I'm just going to be like him. Whereas me being a follower of Christ, I'm instructed to do better, to love more, to give grace, no matter the circumstances. That I am instructed to forgive because Jesus died for those that were considered unforgivable.
And that reminds me of one of the stories that Jesus told.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And
we were talking about it before we got interrupted. What story? What story?
It's the story of the prodigal son. Yes.
That is a good one.
Should we go see if there's anything in the database about it? Okay, you go do that.
Oh, I get to do it this time. Yes.
Okay.
Let's see.
Welcome, agents, to today's Bible segment. Today, we are in Luke chapter 15, and it is the parable of the prodigal son. Now, Jesus liked to tell stories. He was always telling stories when he was teaching. They're called parables, different stories. And the stories had meaning. A lot of people didn't understand the meaning while they were hearing the stories. It just seemed like a good story. Later, Jesus oftentimes would explain the more difficult ones, especially to people, so they would understand what the parable meant and how they could apply it to their lives. Now, this one's pretty easy to understand, but there's lots of different things that we can learn from this story. So you've got this dad and his two sons, and the dad had done a good job. He'd made quite a bit of money. They had their big family farm. They were doing really well. Now, in this society, when dad died, his sons would get an inheritance. They would get money from the estate, and they'd split it up in some way. Usually the older son got more than the younger son, but they would split up the money, and then they would begin their own lives of creating their own properties and wealth. Well, this son was not very patient. He didn't want to wait till dad died to be able to get his part of the money and start his own life. He wanted it now. So one day he had this audacious request. He went to his dad and said, "Dad, I want my money and I want it now." Now, his dad should have tipped over and said, "No way, that's not the way this works. How ungrateful you are." But this dad, in all the love that he had for his son, said, "Okay." He said, "I'll give you half of what I have and you can go start your own life right now." So he did. He gave his son this stuff. Now, did his son go use it wisely and do good things with it? No. Actually, this son went off and he squandered all the money. He wasted it on having parties with friends and doing all this stuff and buying the stuff that he didn't need. Today, he'd have probably bought a sports car. That's the kind of guy this guy was. He didn't need this money, and he didn't use it wisely. Well, one day, this son found himself, he was out of money. There's nothing he could do. He wound up, eating the food that was intended for the pigs. You don't feed pigs good food. It's the slop, the leftover junk, but that's all that he could find. He couldn't find a job. He couldn't find anything. This was bad. And he realized that even the servants in his dad's house ate better than what he was doing and had better conditions than what he had right then. So he decided, maybe I can go back and beg my dad for a job. Maybe he'll just give me a job and I can be one of his servants. So the boy went home, the son went home, and as he's traveling down the road, his dad sees him from a long way off. He was so excited to see his son. He didn't even care what his son had done. He went running down the road to throw his arms around his son and welcome him home, even though he'd lived poorly and squandered all this money that the dad had taken years to accumulate. Dad showed just unbounded love for his son. In fact, he turned around and told his servants, "Let's have a party for him. He's home. Get all this stuff out. Let's have a big celebration." Now, think about what the other son is feeling. He's been at home. He did all the things right. He didn't ask for money. He was respectful for his dad. He goes to his dad and says, "Dad, you've never had a big party for me, and I didn't waste all your money. I wasn't rude like my brother was. What in the world?" And Dad just took him aside, had a gentle conversation with him and said, "Look, you're still going to get everything I own. Everything I have left is yours because of the choices you've made. You've made good choices and you'll reap those rewards eventually. But your brother who was lost is back and we have to celebrate that." So Dad treated them differently, but he treated them both fairly, with grace and with love and with respect. That's the way God treats us. He's always there for us. We've made mistakes. He's waiting with his arms open to welcome us back. We do things right. He's going to pat us on the head and say, "Good job. You're doing it all right." That's the God that we get to live with. And that's what he told us in this parable, in this story. And it's pretty amazing. So check it out for yourself. The Prodigal Son, Luke chapter 15.
Okay.
I mean, that's a great story of how it's talking about where what seemed unforgiving can be forgived, and how the Father just responds with love.
I know, just despite
Awesome.
what the son did, how he basically went to the father and said, I don't want anything to do with you anymore, that I'm just gonna leave, do this. But God still was loving. And the father still was watching for him from afar.
There was love. There was always love no matter the pain that was there.
Even though it was unfair, even though the father was probably hurt by what the son did. And as you know, Jesus tells us that the father represents God and the son represents us. And that even when we make mistakes and we don't hit the mark and we do things on purpose and mess up, or we accidentally do something and mess up, that God is still waiting for us.
Yes. And you know, there in this story, there's actually two sons. Not only do we have the son that went away, but the son that always stayed there, that worked hard. And he kind of responded like I did, and like, this is not fair, this is not cool. Why are we having a party for someone that hurt us? And yet the father's love didn't lessen. He responded still with love to his other son and said, you know, your brother was lost, but he's been found. You're with me every day. Everything I have is yours. It's time to celebrate. And there's always love.
And that's what grace is.
That's what grace is.
Did the son deserve to have a party thrown for him after all that he had done? No, he didn't. But here's what grace is. Grace is forgiveness and love shown even when you don't deserve it.
Oh, so you're saying I need to give Crazy Kangaroo grace and forgiveness.
Even though he doesn't deserve it, even though he might not come and actually ask forgiveness, it's probably best that we forgive him.
Oh, it's such a struggle because I know that's what I need to do.
You know,
But my emotions, it just doesn't want to do that. Should we?
it kind of reminds me, I think I'm holding on to some unforgiveness I've had for Crazy Kangaroo too, because when he kidnapped me, I still don't think I've forgiven him too.
I mean, you talk about the donuts all the time.
I know. I think it's time for me to forgive him as well.
Should we do this together?
Let's
Should
do
we do
it.
this? Let's start with prayer.
Okay.
God, we come before you and we admit we have unforgiveness in our hearts, and that unforgiveness is going to be a barrier. If it's not something that's stopping us now, it's going to stop us later. So we admit that we have anger and frustration in our hearts towards Crazy Kangaroo, and we just give that to you and say we don't have the right to be angry. So forgive us for that frustration, that bitterness, that anger, maybe even like wants of revenge in our minds towards Crazy Kangaroo. We ask for your forgiveness and ask that you would help us just move past that hurt, move past that pain, so that we can live with more life, with love, with grace, and not be brought down by the things that happen to us.
We love you, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I think we should go find Crazy Kangaroo and see if we can forgive him in person. Don't you think?
It's a good idea.
It might be kind of tough. At least we have to at least try.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we'll see if we can find him.
Deep breath. Let's go.
All right.
Grace you to him. Let's go.
Hey, wait a minute. Where's my phone? Did I leave it behind? Where'd it go?